Yeah.
I mean, you can bark about city government and city-owned internet or government-owned internet all you want, but the very fact they're taking this course shows us they don't want to change. It's not in their best interest to change at all, and they want to keep us as peons for as long as they can. And again, if we don't get city-owned broadband here this time, we're not going to have it for 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks for your call, bud.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Billboards now. Wonder what they're going a month. Down in Mr. Meyer's district. Well, the same old folks are trying to run Ward 2. They've been running it for years, and they're doing it in the way that they usually do. They're conjuring up evil city government. I wouldn't be surprised if Mediacom had some people down in Ward 2 that are working with them. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. Anyway, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. If you'd like to join the conversation, it's 515-955-1400. This is Mike. You're on the air. Good afternoon.
I have to pardon the voice. I've caught whatever's going around. My question is how come Mediacom and Frontier don't meet the demands that we asked for?
I have the answer. They don't have any competition. Frontier's about out of the game, by the way. They didn't even come to the city forum concerning broadband issues. Mediacom did, but Frontier didn't. And Frontier, by the way, still runs off phone lines as far as I know. That's the oldest technology around. But Mediacom has no incentive to provide better customer service. They don't care about us. They don't care about us in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Did either CenturyLink or Woolstock come to the meeting?
I didn't. If they did, I didn't recognize them as people representing those companies. No.
I think it's unusual that we have several communities around that have the CenturyLink but doesn't make it to Fort Dodge. I don't understand the no competition thing here either. And it's not just with the internet at home. My cell phone. Around here, it's terrible. I'm out here by the ethanol plant right now. Oh, wouldn't you know it? I just picked up a rock from a semi, broke my brand new windshield.
Oh, man. Yeah, that ain't...
Son of a gun.
It's only $300. You got that in your shirt pocket, don't you?
Well, I did until the $2,000 worth of parts in the back of the pickup I just bought.
That totally bites, doesn't it? I hate that. I used to hate that when I drove a truck.
But yeah, it's annoying that even the Verizon, if I'm here, my cell server sucks. If I drive to Webster City, it rocks. I get to Des Moines, oh my goodness, I have a whole different phone.
Yeah,
so I don't understand why we have crap around here. Maybe we need to get on our representatives and senators and see what's going on, why Fort Dodge is lacking.
Mediacom's spreading around a lot of money. And no doubt they'll spread around a lot of money to our state representatives. This is a moment in time where average, ordinary citizens have to stand up and say, we're going to do this because it's good for us. It's just, it's not like better internet services like going into the Revolutionary War or something, but it's an important moment in the life of our city. We need faster internet, and we demand better customer service. We're not asking for it, we demand it. And the way we get this done, the way we drive home our demand is to vote. Nobody's saying you can't stay with Mediacom. If you'd like to stay with Mediacom, go for it. I won't. Period.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm going to move out of town. I'm going to move a mile or so east of town and live in the country starting next year. So I'm going to be on Woolstock Mutual for their internet. But I fail to understand why the city can't seem to demand more performance out of the people providing a public utility.
This is one of those issues that the social media people get a little weird on. By that I mean, I've had a lot of responses, negative responses, mainly paranoid government conspiracy theorists and libertarians who rage about government internet, and they buy into the whole thing, the fear tactics that Mediacom's trying to throw around. And then they tell me they live outside of Fort Dodge. They're not even residents. They don't live in the city limits. They don't have a dog in the fight. But they're just online, in email, and oh my God, it's terrible, the government's taking over internet. But the government does regulate internet, by the way, but and they don't even live in town. That's the power, by the way, of a concentrated media campaign. If you think this group online on Facebook with the vote no on government internet hasn't done a real study of our area and found out which psychological and emotional buttons to push, you're wrong. They know people in this area, for the most part, don't trust government, but the government they don't trust is in Washington or even Des Moines. Now, there's a few people down in Ward 2 that it's not that they distrust city government, but they just hate it. They just hate the people running the government. And they'll hide behind, oh, yes, I'm fighting government and all these sort of things. What they're really doing, they got an axe to grind with councilmen past and present. And they're still up to it. They're still up to it.
Yeah, you're spot on that. I just, like I said, I get concerned that it seems like we just don't have the people that provide us the stuff. Really, like you said, really don't give a rat's butt whether we get a good service or not.
No, they don't.
No,
they don't.
I think that's horrendous. I don't know why somebody doesn't come up with an alternative, like I said, the CenturyLink or with Woolstock Mutual. I don't know why an independent business doesn't get hooked up with them and provide the third option for this community with the proper stuff. It'd be a moneymaker for somebody.
Well, you forget now that Mediacom does have a franchise with the state of Iowa. And that's always a tough way to go, to get around that. I mean, I believe they have a franchise as far as cable systems are concerned, not necessarily wireless in all its forms, or we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. But I'll find the agreement that Mediacom has with the state somewhere online, and I'll be reading it tomorrow.
So the state sets the minimums that the company has to provide, and then the company only provides the minimum?
I don't know, and I don't want to say until I've read the agreement. But we had a lot of little cable systems around. Some of them just took care of a single town, for example. And for some reason, well, I know why. Because Mediacom poured a lot of money into a lot of pockets in state representatives and senators down in Des Moines at the time, and they got a franchise. I mean, that's the way politics works. Face it, I don't care. Democrats, Republicans, they're motivated by money. And Mediacom, again, has a lot of money to throw around. So I'm sure this is all part of it. But I don't want to say what the agreement says without reading the agreement, because I'm shooting in the dark there. But listen, I want to thank you for your time and thank you for your call.
You bet, guys. Have a good afternoon.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
A lot of ads for sales jobs are sugar-coated with all of the money you could potentially make. In reality, you'll make as much as you want to, depending on the effort you put into the job. I'm Chris Ball, Director of Sales at Alpha Media. Alpha Media is looking for a few good people to represent us while helping local businesses develop a successful marketing plan on our 7 radio stations. Experience is preferred, but we'll work with candidates who have a great attitude and want to succeed. For an interview, call me at 955-5656. Alpha Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. Richard Higgins is a Fort Dodge resident who is in the Fort Dodge City Council race. He was a guest on Divine Intervention with Mike Devine on AM 1400 KVFD. When asked why he was running for City Council, Higgins said he thinks it's time for a change in local government.
We need a change in our government. We need a change in our City Council. Whether I win or lose, I enjoy running. I just feel I can do things for the people.
Higgins has ran several times in the past unsuccessfully, but he says no matter what, determination to do the right thing keeps him going.
And of course, I've been defeated 4 or 5 times, but that doesn't stop me. I still come back.
Higgins went on to say that If the city was doing something that he didn't feel was right, he would have no issue taking exception with it.
Feel something that I don't feel is right what the city's doing, I challenge them on it.
Higgins will face off with incumbent Councilman Dave Flattery for the 3rd Ward seat on the November 5th ballot. At last night's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, a group of citizens from the Woodlands neighborhood approached the council during the public comment section about building a park in the Woodlands neighborhood. The group of citizens from the Woodlands is made up of a group of young mothers with small children who say that the Woodlands area is made up of a large number of families who would benefit from a park being built. They say one of the major concerns about existing parks is not having bathrooms that are available for public usage. The group of citizens was represented at the meeting by Woodlands neighborhood residents Jenny Condon, Gina Carzoli, Nicole Ilchusky, and Carrie Jo Calasisi. Jenny Condon from the group says they are unsure how much funding they would need from the city, but that the group is willing to raise funds to help finance a portion of the project. After Condon and her associates presented the desire for the new park to the council, Councilman Jeffrey Halter expressed his concerns.
So, I mean, they're going to have the same kind of concerns. Are we going to have people that don't want to buy these lots because a park's right there? So trying to find the right place that matches both what your desires are as well as dealing with the developers.
Condon suggested the group put on a workshop presentation on the prospective park, and Mayor Matt Bemrick agreed.
I like your idea of coming back in a workshop type format.
After the meeting, Jenny Condon had this to say in response to the concerns expressed by Councilman Jeffrey Halter.
I thought he had valid points, but this is really just the beginning of what we're doing. And so we're just looking at getting guidance and direction.
For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 40. Winds out of the northwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Lows dip down to about 27. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Chance for mixed precipitation. Highs level off around 35. About an inch of snow tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 40.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn up 2 1/4 at 386 1/4. March up 1 1/2 at 396. May corn up 1 1/4 at 402 3/4. July up 1 1/4 at 408 3/4. November soybeans down 2 1/2 at 918 1/4. January down 2 cents at 933 1/2. March down 1 1/2 at 946 1/4. May down a penny at 957 3/4. December wheat down a quarter penny at 511 1/2. Soybean meal down $1 a ton at 303. October live cattle up 47 cents at 113.35. December up 22 at 116.82. October feeders up 2 cents at 145.42. November down 25 cents at 145.47. December lean hogs down 132 at 64.32. February down 135 at 72.62. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
What drinks should young children be drinking to be healthy? I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. 4 leading health groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, say from birth to age 5, they should be drinking breast milk or formula, water, milk with only a small amount of fruit juice. The groups say the childhood obesity epidemic is in full force in the U.S., and parents are encouraged to cut down on empty calories in their kids' diets while boosting nutrition. Missing from the recommendations are plant-based beverages such as almond, rice, and soy milk. Those plant milks do not have the vitamin D and calcium that cow's milk has and should not be considered equivalent. The list also does not include any drinks with caffeine, and that includes sodas, which are also high in sugar. The CEO of the American Heart Association says heart troubles and diabetes often start in early childhood with bad habits, eating and drinking the wrong things. The groups recommend breast milk for babies up to 6 months as the best beverage, or infant formula. From 6 to 12 months of age, stick with breast milk or formula and try introducing water so babies get used to it. From 1 to 2 years, add in whole milk and more water. A bit of fruit juice is okay, but whole fruit is better. And from 3 to 5, 1% or skim milk plus water, and again, a small amount of fruit juice is considered okay. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
The economics of making the switch to organic. Hello, I'm Megan Grebner, and this is Managing for Profit on Brownfield. The demand for organic grain has been on the rise in the U.S., but making the transition doesn't come without some challenges. In this Managing for Profit, Bruce Eberly with Rabo Agri-Finance talks about how their new organic transition loan offering will help farmers financially survive the transition period. We'll find out more on Brownfield right after this.
Here's farmer and businessman James Wood.
We farm about 3,500 acres. There's pipelines everywhere. The contractor working on my property did not have the lines located before he began work, and it resulted on a strike on a natural gas pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety campaign.
You might not know everyone in your community, but if you did, you'd see that people in recovery from mental and substance use disorders are all around. Reach out for support and begin your recovery journey. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referrals for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The U.S. has been importing between 9 and 12 million bushels of organic grain and 12 to 16 million bushels of organic soybeans per year, and demand is outpacing the increase in domestic production. Bruce Eberly with Rabo Agri-Finance says that presents an incredible opportunity for farmers to receive price premiums. But the USDA requires a 3-year transition period for farmers to certify their land as organic, and that can create a financial barrier for farmers who may be interested in organic production. Eberly says a new loan product from Rabo Agri-Finance can make it more viable for farmers who are wanting to make that transition.
And using, kind of a cooperative ethics to work together for the good of our clients, we were able to work very closely with Pipeline Foods to develop not only the knowledge base and the understanding of what was needed out in agriculture on both ends of the supply chain, but also to build the details of how it would work. How do we move forward in serving these clients, both on the wholesale side to help them connect with the domestic supply chain, but also on the producer side to tap into a little bit of better value for their production. We worked very closely together with the folks at Pipeline Foods. We're happy to have their support and encouragement as we work through this together. And now we're looking forward to helping producers not only finance the costs of transition during the transition period and successfully get to that organic certification, but also to provide them with important off-taker arrangements through Pipeline Foods to make sure that they're able to capitalize and monetize the value of that organic certification on their farmland.
And he tells Brownfield demand growth is expected to continue.
We believe that there is a sustainable market for these types of crops. Our wholesale clients are asking for a larger domestic supply chain in the U.S. On the producer side, timing is kind of difficult because of the tight margins that we've seen recently, and it's difficult for producers to step out and take additional risks.
I'm Megan Grebner with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
Are you looking for senior care for your mom or dad but don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Joan London with The Place for Mom. Nobody
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
Yeah, that's right. We have 60 rounds of freedoms here at all times. AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Joining me on air now by phone is Jim Kirsten. How are you, Jim?
Real good. Thanks for having me back this week.
No, delighted to have you back as always. I spied you last night at the city council meeting, James.
Yeah.
While the broadband discussion was going on. And Curtis Dean and his partner, I don't remember his partner's name now, but they gave a great presentation. And they were rigorously honest, which is more than I can say for MediaCom and its lobbyist representatives. Did you know Chip Baltimore?
Yeah, I did know him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chip is apparently a lobbyist in the employ of MediaCom through a taxpayers association group, who is working assiduously, as you know, to prevent broadband from coming to Fort Dodge, city-owned broadband from coming in Fort Dodge.
Right.
Now, Chip's all right, and there's being a lobbyist is perfectly legal, but I do want to remind everybody that Chip lives in Boone. And MediaCom is headquartered in New York. I don't think they care about us.
Right. And it's ironic. I thought Mr. Dean did a wonderful job, too, and the council had some very good questions. The one by Terry Menke asking about, is it smart to put $30-40 million into the ground for this kind of investment when technology is changing so quickly? And I think Curtis tried to answer that, and so did some of the others, saying, yeah, it will evolve with the new technology. So that's a question voters, are asking. And the other question I've had people ask me about is, how does the market accept buying bonds when they are not supported by property taxes and the hope of getting enough customers to have revenue to pay it back? And I don't have the answer to that, but I think Mayor Bemrick and those others will. And then the third thing I wanted to say real quickly is I ran into Lee Grassley, who is their VP of MediaCom at the meeting, and he is the son of Senator Charles Grassley, which I just learned about this, met him about a year ago. And he said that Chip Baltimore is not an employee of theirs, and he's never met Chip. But I just don't know what role, other than good government perception, Chip is pushing. But I'd say let the voters of Fort Dodge decide.
Well, let the voters of Fort Dodge decide, but let's not twist the information. I don't want to twist the information, and I don't think this taxpayer... Chip Baltimore is actually employed by the Taxpayer Protection Organization, and they're a lobbying group out of Washington, D.C. But I'm assuming, and I mean, that MediaCom is employing that group.
Yeah, the way it sounded from Lee Grassley, they weren't, but maybe they're doing it out of New York and he doesn't know it. I don't know, but regardless, they should tell the truth on both sides and then let the voters decide. And, as one customer of MediaCom, which I don't like government involvement of anything, but if we aren't being served by the utility or the company that has been, supposedly serving us, and I think Mr. Grassie's well intended, but I'm a real life person, and my MediaCom wasn't working, and so I think there's thousands of people in Webster County and Fort Dodge that have had that issue. Now, I think what I would suggest to voters is vote yes, and then see what kind of response we get for other vendors that may want to come in privately to compete with MediaCom, or maybe MediaCom will step up. So I think this is a good tool for the city to have in their pocket that this thing get approved.
Well, so far, MediaCom has shown its hand. They'd rather employ lobbying firms to scare old people in Fort Dodge away from the idea of city broadband because it gets in the way of their profit margin. I don't have any problem with any company making a profit. I think companies making a profit is a very, very good thing. But when they employ what I consider unseemly tactics, I have a real problem with that, and I will speak about it.
And I agree. I agree with you, and I hope we can get the question answered this week by somebody to say, all right, how will these bonds be guaranteed? Because the market's not just going to take it on hope that a new company or new utility's formed and they're going to promise to pay the $30 million back. So we need to find out how that guarantee is going to be put in place.
Who can I get in touch with to find that out? I'd put them right on the air, I'll tell you.
I would think either the city manager, or if he doesn't know, he would have somebody he could call on to get on the radio with you, because I think that's an important question, because I'm very positive. I think we should pass this thing, and as long as we know that the taxpayers aren't on the hook, and then give the option to the council going forward. Do we want to pick a new vendor, a new MediaCom that's actually going to invest, or do we do a public-private deal where city's involved and a private company? I just don't know, but they're leaving all their options open, which I think is a good move.
I do too. That's exactly what I want. I want a little freedom. I mean, the people who don't want competition are not in favor of freedom. I mean, and by the way, can you explain the MediaCom franchise agreement with the state of Iowa?
Well, yeah, you and I served on the local council-appointed,
Cable Commission,
oversight committee for cable. That's when the cities of the state had actual authority to require the cable companies serving them to document how much they're investing every year in infrastructure. So we knew we weren't just getting the money sucked out of town and not reinvested. Well, they have a good lobbyist in Des Moines that was able to change the law. They now have a statewide franchise, and none of that financial reporting is required anymore. And I think that really needs to be changed, separate from the local issue here. Because we don't know how much MediaCom has actually invested in Fort Dodge. And I think they must have 6,000 or 7,000 customers that say it's $100 a month. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money, and I don't think they're going to be telling us how much money they're making or investing in this town in my lifetime, James.
I think you're probably right. And their lobbyist in Des Moines is a very honest, and he's a good lobbyist, so he'll do his best to keep that from having to happen.
Their lobbyist in Des Moines?
Yeah, they have MediaCom's lobbyist is Jim Carney, who's a longtime lobbyist, very respected. And he did a good job for them because he did what they asked him to try to get done. He got a statewide franchise.
Is he still in the game, Carney?
Yeah, he's still employed by them, I believe.
Okay. It seems, and I remember this because I smelled a rat way back when. They had a former public official, a cabinet-level guy like Secretary of State or Secretary of something in the state of Iowa, and he was making radio commercials urging people to accept MediaCom as a statewide franchise. And he was interviewed by some news organization, radio, television, I can't remember, and he denied that that his motives were anything other than pure, that he wasn't being paid, and on and on and on. And right after the election, or right after the vote that secured the franchise for MediaCom, and of course MediaCom or whoever had to reveal their lobbying fees, there was that guy's name right at the top of the list.
That's wrong.
Yeah, that is wrong,
Yeah,
and
it is.
I've met Chip Baltimore a couple times. He's a good guy, but I wish he'd make an honest living some other way. I mean, This is just not the way to go. I mean,
right.
I mean, scaring old
I think
people.
What you're saying is accurate. So people don't get frightened to vote no. If they have nothing to lose if this passes, because nothing's going to change unless the city council, elected by us, decides to change something, and then they're held accountable if they don't do what the voters want. So I think if they at least get this thing approved, it gives the city a lot more leverage and power with whoever will eventually come in, or MediaCom will actually step up. So I think it's a good negotiating. I think David Firk and the city council did a good job on at least putting it on the ballot and give them then a leverage tool and having the option of doing their own utility.
Well, I'll tell you, it is hilarious that this group, Vote No on Government Internet, are telling us that they're just here out of concern for taxpayers. Now, you know, their number in Washington, D.C. is on their internet page. So if you want to call them up, here's their number, 202-930-1716. And, ask them how they intend to protect taxpayers in Fort Dodge, if that's their real motive. This is the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Taxpayers Protection Alliance. And they have on their webpage right now, a vote for broadband utility is a vote for a blank check. And right down the line, they're talking Fort Dodge, Fort Dodge, Fort Dodge, and it's all a scare tactic. I mean,
well, if you could say that number a couple of times, I think people will write that down, because that would be helpful, I think.
Well, let me do that. The number to the Taxpayer Protection Alliance in Washington, D.C., that's some distance from Fort Dodge, as I understand, but they claim they're here in our town for the public good, to protect taxpayers. Now, if you believe that, I want to sell you some oceanfront property in Arizona. And here's their number, 202-930-1716. That's 202-930-1716. Now, you can also find their webpage and under Taxpayer Protection Alliance, and they have Fort Dodge all over that webpage. So this is a full court press by veteran lobbyists in Washington, D.C. that have no connection with us whatsoever. Chip Baltimore doesn't, for that matter. Chip Baltimore has no connection to our town whatsoever, but they barge in here and start telling us what we ought to do, and they're scaring our old people, and I think it's reprehensible.
Yeah, I do too, and I hope that the voters will give the city this tool that they can leverage then to get better service and hopefully a better value. And at the end of the day, we all win, and it's just what democracy is about. If the city has that tool of having the option of doing a utility, then they're in a better negotiating spot with the other companies.
Well, David Furick will be in here right after the news at 4 o'clock, and I'm glad. So far, the explanation we've got from the council and from the mayor as regards to funding city broadband is that revenue bonds would be sold so that the new utility would pay the bonds off with the revenue from the users. But we need a little fuller explanation than that.
Are those backed up or guaranteed by anything in case that revenue's not
Well,
there?
they would have to be, wouldn't they, Jim?
I would think so. I do, but I don't know. So that's why I think people that have asked that question to me know I want this thing to pass, and they asked me to ask that question. So I said I would, and I know we'll probably get a transparent answer from whomever, whether it's David or somebody else.
Well, we hope so. That's all we can hope. And again, I hope that I voted today. I voted for the councilman of my choice, and I voted in favor of city broadband. By saying that, I hope that I don't sink the chances of city broadband. You know, well, if he's for it, it must be wrong.
I voted last week, and I voted in favor of the election, hoping to give a city a tool they can use to at least get better leverage with whoever they're going to negotiate with.
Well, there's a lot of... I understand Mr. Justin Myers, who works for MediaCom and is running for Ward 2 City Council, there's a big billboard in his ward now urging people to stay with MediaCom and to reject city-owned broadband. I thought that was choice.
Yeah, but I trust him. I met him for the first time at that forum, and I think he truly is abstaining. Does not want to get this. You know, he works for the company.
He does,
and I believe him. And the company probably wasn't dumb to put it in his ward, but he has no control over that.
Well, I'm sure he doesn't. But the fact that we started talking about city-owned broadband and he started running for council is a little, well, it's unusual. It's an unusual situation, you know. It would be like we're going to regulate local radio and all of a sudden I'm running for council. Because
that would be entertaining.
That would
be entertaining.
That would be true. We'd have some of the best debates ever.
That would be good.
I should debate Richard Higgins and Gene Nelson for 3 hours some night on Iowa Central. I think that would be great entertainment.
We'd love to have it sometime.
I can't get him in the same ward though. Richard's out on the east side, and Gene. Well, he's running for council at large, though, isn't he? So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Melvin is, I should say. So I guess we've got that off our chest, Jim, as far as broadband. And again, we hope that people will support the broadband initiative. And again, David Furyk will be here, and we'll ask Dr. Evil himself what's going on with this. Is there anything going on at the State House yet? Or
well, actually, I was in Des Moines today for a meeting with our community college partners and talking about the upcoming legislative session. So just starting to do the work needed to prepare, continue to try to implement the Future Ready Iowa training effort that we're going to be doing in every all 99 counties in the state. That's the new funding that allows what they call a last dollar scholar. So students that go to Iowa Central or any other college can get a scholarship to help bridge the gap between the tuition they have to pay and the student loan or Pell Grant that they get. So we've got about, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 students taking advantage of that statewide. And the goal is to get them a skill and get into a job that is open right now in Iowa. And we have a lot of them in Fort Dodge and all over the state. So we're beginning to really get that thing ramped up. So we're doing a lot of work on that.
All right. The session starts down in Des Moines, when, January the what, 15th or something like that?
I think it's the 13th or 15th, yeah,
okay.
Right around then.
Okay. All right. Have you heard from now Ambassador Branstad?
Not in the last, I saw him this summer when he was home for the state fair and to see his family, but he went back, and I think he's been pretty immersed in this whole international trade negotiations with the White House.
Well, boy, we need to break that log jam, I'll tell you, one way or the other.
Yeah, we do.
All right, Jim Kirsten's been our guest. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening to AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Fox News coming up, followed by the local news with Rob Jones. And then, of course, David Furyk, city manager. Thanks for listening. This is KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa.
I'm Dave Ramsey. Join me every Monday through Friday afternoon from 5 to 8 p.m. on AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
Republicans say it changes nothing. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. House Democrats unveiling a resolution that confirms the impeachment process already underway, also setting up the next steps, though the House Speaker says it's not an impeachment resolution. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
Public hearings and Republican witnesses will be included in the next phase of the impeachment inquiry against President Trump. A resolution introduced by House Democratic leaders and expected to get a vote Thursday lays out a path for open hearings led by the Intelligence Committee. Top Republican Devin Nunes is allowed to request witnesses and documents, though would need the okay of Democratic Chairman Adam Schiff or approval from a full committee vote. Republicans say the process is already too tainted to be fixed, comparing the closed-door testimony to a Soviet-style proceeding. Lisa.
Jared, Republicans accuse Schiff of blocking the latest witness from answering some Republican lawmakers' questions during a closed-door impeachment hearing today.
That might be what they do in the Soviet Union, not in the United States of America. We can't stand for this. The American people are being denied equal justice.
House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Today's witness is the first White House official to give a deposition. Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, a member of the National Security Council, was among those listening to the president's Ukraine call. He tells lawmakers he raised concerns about the call at the time. The CEO of Boeing says the company is deeply and truly sorry for the crashes that claimed 346 lives, grounding Boeing MAX jets.
No number other than 0 accidents is ever acceptable. We can and must do better.
Dennis Muhlenberg facing questions at a Senate hearing about how much Boeing knew before the disasters linked to sensor problems in a flight control system. The company recently releasing internal messages from 2016 that show a test pilot's concerns. America is listening to Fox News.
How would you like to get paid for eating healthy? Or paid for your gym membership? Or paid for running? When you get life insurance through Health IQ, it's like getting paid for living a healthy lifestyle, because Health IQ is the only life insurance company that can save you up to 41% for the healthy activities you already do. That means you could get $1 million in coverage for as little as $36 a month. That's huge savings. Have a gym membership? You could qualify. Jog a few times a week. You could qualify. It really is that simple. Just go to healthiq.com/easy. Only Health IQ rewards your healthy lifestyle choices with special savings, up to 41%. It's why Health IQ was awarded the Better Business Bureau's highest rating. To shop the top 30 life insurance carriers, plus apply for Health IQ's exclusive healthy lifestyle savings, go to healthiq.com/easy. To get these amazing savings, go to healthiq.com/easy now. That's healthiq.com/EASY.
Thousands remain wildfire evacuees in California. The Kincaid fire that's charred more than 75,000 acres in Sonoma County, and the Getty fire around L.A.
That fire has scorched 658 acres and is just 5% contained. About 9,000 homes remain evacuated. Everyone's bracing for those fierce Santa Ana winds, as they're called in L.A. They're known as Diablo winds here in the Bay Area, and in the right conditions, they can cause intense firestorms in an instant.
Fox's Claudia Cowan in Santa Rosa. The winds could hit near hurricane force tonight. Immigration officials reporting a 68% increase in apprehensions this past fiscal year, with a record number of Central American families.
Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan says they apprehended 1.1 million people this past year, most of them at the southwest border.
These are numbers that no immigration system in the world can handle.
Morgan said in a press conference Tuesday from El Paso that agents have done the work without help from lawmakers who he says failed to close several loopholes that lure immigrants here.
Congress knows exactly what they need to do, and I know that because I personally have told them.
He says regardless, the wall is being built and families seeking asylum are no longer allowed into the country. They're forced to wait in Mexico.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Game 6 of the World Series tonight. Houston up 3-2 on Washington.
The Astros giving the start on the mound tonight to a struggling Justin Verlander. Skipper A.J. Hinch, though, keeping confident in his ace.
Once he does find all three of his pitches and he finds his slot where he likes where he's throwing specifically his slider, watch out.
The Nationals look to snap a 3-game skid and even this fall classic up to force a Game 7 tomorrow. Manager Dave Martinez.
I told him the focus is Game 6. We got Steven Strasburg on the mound.
First pitch in Game 6 of the World Series coming up from Minute Maid Park shortly after 8 p.m. Eastern.
Fox's Matt Napolitano. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Richard Higgins is a Fort Dodge resident who is in the Fort Dodge City Council race. He was a guest on Divine Intervention with Mike Divine on AM 1400 KVFD. When asked why he was running for city council, Higgins said he thinks it's time for a change in local government.
We need a change in our government. We need a change in our city council. Whether I win or lose, I enjoy running. I I just feel I can do things for the people.
Higgins has ran several times in the past unsuccessfully, but he says no matter what, determination to do the right thing keeps him going.
And of course, I've been defeated 4 or 5 times, but that doesn't stop me. I still come back.
Higgins went on to say that if the city was doing something that he didn't feel was right, he would have no issue taking exception with it.
Feel something that I don't feel is right what the city's doing, I challenge them on it.
Higgins will face off with incumbent Councilman Dave Flattery for the 3rd Ward seat on the November 5th ballot. At last night's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, a group of citizens from the Woodlands neighborhood approached the council during the public comment section about building a park in the Woodlands neighborhood. The group of citizens from the Woodlands is made up of a group of young mothers with small children who say that the Woodlands area is made up of a large number of families who would benefit from a park being built. They say one of the major concerns about existing parks is not having bathrooms that are available for public usage. The group of citizens was represented at the meeting by Woodlands neighborhood residents Jenny Condon, Gina Carzoli, Nicole Ilchusky, and Carrie Jo Calasisi. Jenny Condon from the group says they are unsure how much funding they would need from the city, but that the group is willing to raise funds to help finance a portion of the project. After Condon and her associates presented the desire for the new park to the council, Councilman Jeffrey Halter expressed his concerns.
So, they're going to have the same kind of concerns. Are we going to have people that don't want to buy these lots because a park's right there? So trying to find the right place that matches both what your desires are as well as dealing with the developers.
Condon suggested the group put on a workshop presentation on the prospective park, and Mayor Matt Bemrick agreed.
I like your idea of coming back in a workshop type format.
After the meeting, Jenny Condon had this to say in response to the concerns expressed by Councilman Jeffrey Halter.
I thought he had valid points, but this is really just the beginning of what we're doing. And so we're just looking at getting guidance and direction.
For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 40. Winds out of the northwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Lows dip down to about 27. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Chance for mixed precipitation. Highs level off around 35. About an inch of snow tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 40.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
See, that makes me an evil government operative trying to save Medicare and Social Security. What is wrong with me? I should be exiled to Venezuela, Detroit, or Russia. Take your pick. They're all the same. Yes, my eyes are all bugged out and wild because of socialism, creeping socialism. Okay. I really had a good time today, David. David Furyk, city manager, is here, also known as Dr. Evil. How are you doing?
I thought you were taking my title there. You said evil, and is it now in your title?
No, I was being facetious.
Evil government operative?
Facetious. That's how anybody who's supporting broadband is being caricatured by an out-of-state lobbying group in Washington, D.C.
Funded by who?
Yeah, really. Yeah, who's paying them? And they won't admit it. They won't even. Our concern is just for the citizens of Fort Dodge. Who believes that? Who believes that? Yes, some group in Washington, D.C. Hires in a roundabout way Chip Baltimore, who lives in Boone, who was a former state representative. And Chip's all over the place. I still can't believe the Messenger allowed Chip Baltimore to put that big, long screed in their newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
What a bunch of crap that is. Chip Baltimore? He doesn't live here. Didn't the Messenger say that? Didn't they have, didn't they talk to anybody? Chip's not, he doesn't have a dog in the fight. He's not supposed to. You don't want to comment.
Well, he has a dog in a fight. He's working for somebody.
Yeah. Oh, you just had to be right, didn't you? In a higher sense, David, he has no dog in the fight. He has no dog in the fight because he doesn't live here. This does not affect him. He's doing it for money. He's a hired gun, and he's scaring old people like you.
Old people like me. Yeah. I'm scaring old people. Yeah. Are you saying I'm like me? You call me old?
Don't complicate it. Don't complicate it. No, Chip Baltimore and his group are trying to scare old people in Webster County. Don't get paranoid over there.
I'm not.
Are you sure? You didn't do some bad weed or something, or hiding in the corner or something, all right? You haven't been visiting the folks back home, have you?
Going back to Canada.
By the way, the next time you go to Champaign after the first of the year, I want to talk to you about that. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. If you have a question or comment for the city manager, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. Here is the question of the day. We're going to finance city broadband if it passes, first of all, on November 5th, which I certainly hope it does. But if it does pass, then we are going to proceed with finding out about city broadband.
Yes.
And, of course, after last night's council meeting where Curtis Dean and what's the other man's name? Curtis Dean and Ty something. Todd. What was his like? Something. I can't remember.
I know,
it doesn't really make any difference. Anyway, Curtis Dean, a consultant with Smart Source Consulting, spelled it out for us, what's going to happen and pretty much how much the cost. And, of course, these lobbyists went freaking out, running around with their hair on fire, trying to scare everybody in Webster County. But the real question is, we're going to proceed, providing the vote is there, with revenue bonds to construct the project, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If the council decides to construct the project as a public utility.
The voters have to approve it, and then the council has to do this.
Yes.
Approve it as a public utility.
Yes.
So we're going to define public utility here in just a minute, but right now, we're going to settle this question. The anti-competition people are saying that there's a lot of places around the country that constructed broadband, used revenue bonds, and then the taxpayers were stuck with the bill. The taxpayers ultimately were stuck with the bill. With the revenue with the revenue bond plan that we have, will taxpayers in Fort Dodge, if we can't make our payments, be stuck with the cost or the payments?
No, and I'll explain why.
Okay,
well, let's explain. Because, first of all, you got to understand that the laws that allow cities to borrow money, whether that become taxable payments, tax payments, or revenue bonds, vary state to state. So there are things that the city of Fort Dodge can and can't do in Iowa that a town of similar size and structure in Illinois can do differently. For example, if you're a town the size of Fort Dodge, 25,000 in Illinois, you can issue general obligation bonds without a vote. Mm-hmm. You don't need a vote because you're called a home rule community. You can go do that. In Iowa, the city of Fort Dodge or any home rule community, home rule really doesn't exist when it comes to municipal finance in Iowa. It's kind of a joke. Fort Dodge can only issue general obligations up to $700,000, except for a few purposes that the state has said those are essential purposes of which you can issue any amount of debt. So broadband network is not one of those essential purposes. So if the city wanted to put the taxpayers on the hook for this network,
Mhm.
it requires a vote of the community and not this vote. This vote is only given permission to establish a network. That vote would say, okay, the city's going to issue whatever $1 million in bonds to be paid from whatever source, and they need to get taxpayer approval. Similarly, like the Roselle Rapids Aquatic Center, that had to go to a vote. It required a 60% vote to pass. Any vote in any general obligation bond vote requires a 60% majority. You know, the schools did some lately. So that's where we would be. So one is the council has no intention of paying these with revenue bonds or paying these with general obligation bonds as we're sitting here now. If they chose to, which I would highly doubt, we would go back to the voters and have to get permission to sell general obligation revenue bonds. We're not asking for permission to sell general obligation bonds now. We're asking for permission to have the ability to establish a network of which we would use revenue bonds for.
So general obligation bonds are backed up by taxpayer money.
Yes.
Okay, but not revenue.
Revenue bonds are not.
Yeah, revenue bonds are not.
And every state has different rules. So you can't say, well, this one failed in Connecticut and all the taxpayers are on the hook. This one failed in Minnesota, the taxpayers are on the hook. Because every state has different rules.
Yeah.
Show me an Iowa city that's failed that's then stuck it on the taxpayers, and then we'll talk. Because there's different rules in every state on how bonds are paid back, either both revenue bonds or general obligation bonds. In Illinois, they have something called double barrel bonds, which you sell them as revenue bonds, but if they fail, you can use your general obligation to back them up. The taxpayers, so taxpayers could be on the hook. We can't do those in Iowa.
Yeah. Well, that's what these merchants of doubt are doing online. And by the way, I'll have Chip Baltimore here tomorrow at 3:00. Now, I've been chewing him out online, so it should be a good conversation.
Yeah, ask him in the Iowa code where the city can sell geo bonds for where it is in the city code or in the Iowa code where you can sell geo bonds.
He'll never answer that question.
For telecom
He will change the subject right away.
Without a referendum.
That's right. He will change the subject
I know,
right
because
away.
the whole ploy has been, well, if you vote for this, they'll never come back to you for another vote, and they'll put you in debt.
Well, then we have the other part of the no city broadband crowd, and they are the black helicopter people who think the CIA is going to invade their home and take their money. Well, they're just anti-government.
CIA. Okay.
You have no sense of humor, do you?
This is my job, Mike. I got to be serious. If you want to talk federal politics, we can laugh it up all you want.
No, let me try it another way. They're the tinfoil hat crowd who believe the government is out to get them. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember at a what am I trying to say? When the representatives appear out at Iowa Central, the not a candidate forum, but
Eggs and Issues?
Eggs and Issues, thank you. God,
Yeah.
it was out of my head for a minute. Several years ago, a man got up to the podium. That's when we still had, we allowed people to ask questions from a microphone set up away from the stage. And he got up there and said, well, I don't want to identify myself because I don't want the government to know what I'm doing right now. Guy was he didn't look like the government was looking for him. Let me put it that way.
There's a lot of people on that planet. If you're not doing nothing the government cares about, they don't care what you're doing.
I think he lived in a small house in a small town of Webster County, and his eyes were rolling around his head like two BBs in a saucer just naturally. But by the way, I sent I thought I sent a text to Dave Flattery inviting him on after you.
Okay.
But I actually sent it to Dan Flattery, who tells me that he is not running for council.
But he can save you a bunch on car insurance.
He could. He's my insurance man. I go to him. He's my car insurance guy, and he's my household guy as well. So yeah, somebody named Flattery's got all my business, and I finance my house through Avela, or my condo, I should say. Mm-hmm. So there we go. The Flatteries own me.
Yeah. And again, at some point you were trying to get to a point, but
I
think
was.
The deal is, though, it's like this is a voluntary service. Even if the city provides it, it's a competitive in nature. So if you don't want to get service from the city, you don't have to. There's nothing that says you have to have
well,
internet
that's key,
service
isn't
from the
it?
city.
But they believe they're going to have to keep paying Mediacom and back up the revenue bonds with their hard-earned tax money.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, I'll get a clip of you saying that and play it for Chip tomorrow. Let him argue with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he's bringing up examples,
you want to come in?
If he's bringing,
that'll be great.
No,
No, you don't want to do the. Yeah. You want me to have it out with him. Well, I don't have any problem doing.
I know
that.
you were going back and forth a little bit with him.
Yes, I was.
No, I think it's a long process to get from even after the vote to doing the full business plan, because we just did kind of a cursory business plan that was presented last night that basically said, hey, your community is unsatisfied with the service they're getting. This is basically the people that would switch, and this is basically what it would cost for a new service. And based on the information we have now, there's pretty good indications. They're not promising anything, but pretty good indications that there is that a third system would be viable in Fort Dodge. Now, whether that's a city system or a private third party coming in, or some combination of the two, there's possibility there. And so it probably bears continued look into it, but there's continued steps. There's the rest of the feasibility study. Then there's full-on design work that needs to get done. And then associated with all that is you have to put together a business plan that you got to go take to an underwriter and say, hey, here's our plan. Are these revenue bonds sellable? And they say, well, you might need to do this, you might need to do that, and then sell them. I guess it'll all depend on how thoroughly vetted our business plan is,
right?
And whether they're willing to do it. I mean, this is not a whole lot different than, hey, I'm going to start a business, go in a bank, and trying to get a loan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's really kind of. I mean, when it boils down to it, this is what we're doing.
Okay. Who buys revenue bonds?
Well, typically you have an underwriter that puts together the whole deal and gives you the money. Then they go out and resell them based on what they think they're worth. Because they're probably not going to. No one agency is probably going to hold all 20 to 30 million of them. They're going to go out and resell them and try to make a little money off that, even though they're making money off the interest from us too. And then it could get sold and resold on the market.
Why not? Huh?
Yeah, I mean they get sold and resold all the time. Even GO bonds are sold and resold. All the time.
Sure. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest, City Manager David Feerick, and we're talking city-owned broadband. If you have a question or comment, 515-955-1400. I'd really like to hear from those tinfoil hat people out there who believe that government is going to get them. I don't trust government. Well, I've made a living out of not trusting government. And now you want to tell me you don't trust government, and that I'm some kind of government collaborator.
Yeah, Mike Devine, a government collaborator.
Mike Devine, government collaborator.
And there are things that, private sector does better, and there are things that government should be in, and there are things that government should not be in. But, in the case here, again, if we would not be having this conversation, we wouldn't be doing all this work if we didn't feel compelled that we have to do something better than what we have right now. And the pre-feasibility study pans out with a survey that people aren't happy with the service they're getting, whether it's interruptions or slowdowns or whatever. They're not satisfied with what they're getting. And
what percentage of the people responded, and what percentage indicated they were completely dissatisfied with Mediacom?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's not Mediacom because we didn't ask for specific. We asked for whoever their ISP provider is. No, we just had, so in conglomeration, it's over 50% that were extremely dissatisfied. And then you had, I think, another 25% that were like, meh, it's okay. And then the other 25% were satisfied. So it breaks down. More than half were not real happy at all. And then 25% were kind of blasé about it. And the other 25 were pretty happy.
Okay.
And that's possible. I mean, there are some pockets in town where there's pretty darn good service.
Not in my neighborhood.
Well, not in mine either, but some places it could be good. And that could be different carriers. It could be Mediacom. You're real close to some of the best part of their network. It could be a lot of things. It could a whole bunch of engineering things why somebody would be getting better service than someone else.
You kind of busted the Mediacom people when we were out there at that forum by describing the hole that Fort Dodge was in as far as internet service was concerned. Can you explain the hole that we're in?
Yeah, Fort Dodge is surrounded by obviously rural area, and they're served by rural telecom cooperatives. So what those are, what a cooperative is, for lack of a full definition, is basically a public utility owned by the cooperative. That's really what it is. And so the cooperatives have, because they reinvest in themselves. They take the money they earn, they reinvest in themselves, and their advantage because they're rural, able to get federal grants and or federal nice loans, have been able to bring fiber all the way to the home. So all the a lot of the farms, Gowrie, the towns around Fort Dodge, a lot of them have fiber to the home, which is what we're trying to do here. But
Marcy Borner's coming in here on Friday. She's with the Webster Calhoun Cooperative Telephone Association. Why can't we have a co-op like some of the smaller towns do?
That we weren't. I don't know. Maybe because I don't know. You're talking about probably rules and laws put together 100 years ago. Or something.
Well, 100 years ago they wouldn't have they wouldn't have covered it.
But Marcy would be good to talk to because she can give you a good kind of explanation or picture of how those work. Because a municipal utility, if the city of Fort Dodge operates a municipality, it probably wouldn't be a whole lot different than Webster Calhoun Telephone Cooperative. As far as how they operate and how they do business.
Mm-hmm. I lived for a short time in Lone Rock, Iowa, which is a tiny town of 150. And they had a cooperative telephone service.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get a bonus sometimes twice a year or once a year. And I got $896 one time.
Back in cash?
Well, I got a check for it.
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
Sweet.
I found this little check in my mailbox. And I said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you very much.
It's like living in Alaska where you get a dividend. You don't pay taxes, you get a dividend.
Yeah, up in the Dakotas and Montana where there's a lot of Indian tribes, they get checks pretty regularly for that sort of thing. They get checks.
Presidential candidate Andrew Yang wants to give the whole country a dividend.
I'm voting for him. I'm voting for him. What do you want, $1,000 a month or 10?
Wasn't it like $1,000 a month or something?
I think it was,
for a freedom dividend. I heard him on a show.
Freedom dividend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking. Oh my God! Detroit, Venezuela, Russia, socialism. I can do that stuff better than the people who are scared out of their minds about it. It always amazes me when somebody lives in a trailer court is always worried about the government taking something from them. Usually they're on food stamps,
It's all right to get something. You just can't take something.
Yeah. Hand it over to me. But, oh my God, stay out of my sphere of freedom or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But not to sound too philosophical, but when you talk about city government, the city government is us.
Thank you very much.
We're part of the organization. We all have the ability to participate. We all have the ability to go to meetings, council meetings. You have your council members, probably your neighbor, or them from some function, so you can go talk to them. Yeah, it is still representative because we have a big enough organization that we need to be done through representative and professional management. But it's still we're all part of the city, so we're all part of the city government.
Yeah, but you're slick boys. You're slickers. You're slickers, and you're trying to
only slick up here.
Yeah, that's where I'm slick too. By the way, on my head.
Yeah.
By the way, you can watch the conversation here at AM 1400 by going to YouTube. Go to YouTube.com, then type in 1400 KVFD, and there's me and old shiny top over here. Actually, there's two of us in here. I mean, I probably have 10 more hairs than
you got a little more than 10 more than me.
15.
Yeah.
All right. What question did Minky ask last night? Minky was.
Did he ask?
I got to bring Minky into the conversation because I know he's listening to us, or will be listening to us on SoundCloud later. But he asked something. What was it he asked? I don't know. You would think that everything Minky said would stay in my mind, but it didn't.
See, now you're going to get me in trouble because I can't remember.
Sorry, Terry. I know you thought you had a tremendous impact on our lives, and you do. But we just can't remember what you say or what you look like. All right, David. Is there anything else?
No, that's all I got for you,
good.
Mike.
All
Thanks.
right. David Fierig, City Manager at AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 4:30. The news is next. Come on.
Think it's time for a change. You may get disgusted, start thinking that I'm strange. The kids are going to ground, get some heavy rest. Never have to worry about what is
now
worth.
Now down to husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. And Mr. the brick.
In our government, we need a change in our city council. Whether I win or lose, I enjoy running. I just feel I can do things for the people.
Higgins has ran several times in the past unsuccessfully, but he says no matter what, determination to do the right thing keeps him going.
And of course, I've been defeated 4 or 5 times, but that doesn't stop me. I still come back.
Higgins went on to say that if the city was doing something that he didn't feel was right, he would have no issue taking exception with it.
Feel something that I don't feel is right what the city's doing, I challenge him on it.
Higgins will face off with incumbent Councilman Dave Flattery for the 3rd Ward seat on the November 5th ballot. At last night's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, a group of citizens from the Woodlands neighborhood approached the council during the public comment section about building a park in the Woodlands neighborhood. The group of citizens from the Woodlands is made up of a group of young mothers with small children who say that the Woodlands area is made up of a large number of families who would benefit from a park. From the city, but that the group is willing to raise funds to help finance a portion of the project. After Condon and her associates presented the desire for the new park to the council, Councilman Jeffrey Halter expressed his concerns.
So I mean, they're going to have the same kind of concerns. Are we going to have people that don't want to buy these lots because a park's right there? So trying to find the right place that matches both what your desires are as well as dealing with the developers.
Condon suggested the group put on a workshop presentation on the prospective park, and Mayor Matt Bemrick agreed.
I like your idea of coming back in a workshop type format.
After the meeting, Jenny Condon had this to say in response to the concerns expressed by Councilman Jeffrey Halter.
I thought he had valid points, but this is really just the beginning of what we're doing. And so we're just looking at getting guidance and direction.
For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 40. Winds out of the northwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Lows dip down to about 27. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Chance for mixed precipitation. Highs level off around 35. About an inch of snow tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 40.
Staples is more than a place you go to buy a new PC. It's where an associate helped me find the latest tech I needed to work smarter, not harder. Where I got a protection plan plus 24/7 tech support that keeps me connected. And where I increased my productivity for a lot less than what I thought I'd spend.
Right now at Staples, you can save up to $300 on the latest PCs. Staples, for your business tech and beyond. In-store only. Ends 11/2/19 while supplies last. Exclusions apply.
Winter is great for some things, like snow skiing or ice fishing, and bad for others, like driving or roofing your house. Did you know if you roof in the winter, it won't seal right? No matter what that so-called professional roofer says, never let him put a new roof on in the winter. Instead, call Hahn Roofing right now. They'll come check out your roof and put you on the top of their list for their first roofing project in the spring. Call Hahn Roofing at 712-262-8923. That's 712-262-8923. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
This week on the Iowa Watch Connection.
They may have crop insurance. Crop insurance doesn't cover everything.
Effects of the massive spring flooding in Iowa continue to be seen.
We're always stretched thin. One of the things that results from that is that people are not seen often enough.
Systemic strains are even more challenging now.
I don't know how to recruit therapists. It's an ongoing problem.
Seeking help in disaster-stricken areas. Our topic this week.
The Iowa Watch Connection is presented by the Iowa Center for Public Affairs Journalism, online at iowawatch.org. Here is Jeff Stein.
The images seen of spring flooding in western Iowa were amazing and easily depicted a devastating situation. That's what we could see, but what about the residual impact of the flooding in areas that could not be seen? Iowa Watch reporter Kelly Page has our report.
I knew some Iowans report having problems accessing mental health care. I also thought about the effects flooding this year, especially along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, could have on farmers, not just economically but mentally as well. I wondered, does Iowa have mental health care resources in these flooded regions to address the needs of farmers? A population researchers suggest is already at risk when mental health conditions emerge, especially when you consider a stigma attached to seeking help that is strong among farmers. More than a dozen mental health care experts I spoke with over 2 months told me they were concerned that there are not enough mental health care professionals in Iowa to treat farmers. Moreover, they said they expected an increasing need for care because of the floods. But there's another problem. Many mental health care professionals do not want to work in a rural area, for reasons ranging from a lack of resources to a perceived lack of cultural opportunities.
I don't know how to recruit therapists.
That's Susan Ecker, director of Waubonsie Mental Health Clinic, which has locations in Fremont, Page, and Montgomery counties in southwestern Iowa. Those are some of the counties hit hardest by flooding earlier this year.
It's an ongoing problem recruiting therapists to our communities in the absence of disaster and crisis. But when you have natural disasters such as this flooding, it just makes it even more, underscores it even more that we've got to come up with some way, some programs like what we once had that entices and encourages therapists to consider coming to rural communities. And I think of the therapists that I employ, they grew up here. This is home to them. But I think often when somebody grows up in an urban area, there's lots of opportunities there, and there's really no incentive for them to relocate here.
The incentives Ecker mentioned are funding from the National Health Service Corps, which provides student loan forgiveness and grants as part of their program to bring health care to rural areas. Ecker said Waubonsie stopped receiving those benefits after her area's mental health care shortage area rating, determined by the U.S. Health Resources and Services Administration, showed improvement. Many areas of Iowa hit by flooding receive benefits from the National Health Service Corps, however. In all, 50 of the 59 Iowa counties designated as disaster areas because of flooding this year also have been designated by the Health Resources and Services Administration as having inadequate mental health care. It is important to note also that shortages exist throughout the state. 86 of Iowa's 99 total counties are designated mental health professional shortage areas. However, even in clinics that receive help from the National Health Services Corps, therapists told me it did not solve all of their problems.
We're always stretched thin. So one of the things that results from that is that people are not seen often enough.
That's Alicia Doherty. She is a clinical supervisor at Plains Area Mental Health Center, which covers a wide patch of northwest Iowa. Aside from Service Corps funding, she said Plains Area Mental Health Center offers employment benefits such as numerous health insurance policy options and pay that is 7% higher than the state average. She said she still feels the clinics are constantly short-handed.
I'm going to be honest. I really feel like our education doesn't prepare us for what it's really like to work in this field. And so, like, sometimes we get people in here who, after a few weeks, decide that they don't even want to work in this field after they've gotten, like, 2 to 3 years of education and, $60,000 to $100,000 worth of student loans. Because a college's goal really is to matriculate, is to get people, through their program. They advertise those rates, but, when people get out into the reality of working in community mental health with lots and lots of barriers, it's a completely different experience. So, like, a lot of models are set up, a lot of treatment models and, like community models are set up for urban areas. I would say most of them, to be honest, are set up for urban areas, and then we try to implement them in rural Iowa because they have such good outcomes, and then you're dealing with transportation, you're dealing with just lack of resources. When I lived in the city, it was just a matter of figuring out what resource someone needed and plugging them in. Out here, they just don't exist. So that's really difficult for a clinician who's only supposed to be treating someone's symptoms, and in the end, they ended up also being a case manager.
The result for patients is high turnover rates, which can have negative effects on treatment.
I have actually 2 clients on my caseload right now who saw their previous therapist. One of them saw her for 9 years, the other one saw her for 13 years, who were honestly traumatized by having to start seeing me. So it was a major setback for their treatment.
Pat Sheldon, whose family has been farming near the small town of Percival in the southwestern corner of Iowa for 4 generations, has been working continuously to maintain the 2,500 acres of farmland owned by him, his father, his brothers, and his son. Sheldon also is the president of the Benton, Washington Levee District, which has become a demanding position after multiple levees breached in the flood. He said he is not seeking mental health care and deals with the stress of floods by spending time with friends and pushing forward, but he sees how many other farmers might need help right now.
So I'm been really busy. So, you just keep going. Adrenaline kicks in and away you go.
Despite the shortage of mental health care providers in these rural areas, especially for farmers, Mike Negg, the state's Agriculture and Land Stewardship Secretary, said he wants to understand these problems and help to the best of his ability. Here's Negg in an interview with me.
If there's lacking capacity or if there aren't resources available, we want to make sure that there are. So I guess I'm always wanting to understand more about those things, and then we'll help in any way that we can.
I'm Kelly Page for the Iowa Watch Connection.
And Iowa Watch reporter Kelly Page joins me now. The most fundamental question, Kelly, how did you come up with the idea for this series of extended reports?
Well, I was kind of aware that there were a lot of people in Iowa who had trouble accessing mental health care within the state. And I was also thinking about just all of the flooding that's been happening in the state just this year, and wondering how that would affect farmers and their mental health needs, if this was a triggering situation for them. So I just really wanted to figure out, if there was if there were people who were concerned and kind of like where the issues lay within the ability of Iowans to access mental health care, specifically farmers in rural areas right now.
As you did the reporting, what surprised you the most?
Well, what surprised me is that a lot of these issues just get echoed across the state. There's definitely a shortage. There's a shortage that people feel. Most of the mental health care providers I talked to, all of them were aware of the shortage. I did talk to one who had found a way to kind of deal with it, or at least to expand services just by actively recruiting people to come work there. But everyone told me it's very hard to get mental health care providers to work in the state, in rural areas especially.
And that's even made worse by the fact that there's undue stress, if you will, on the mental health providers who are there. So it becomes a situation where not only are they at risk, these professionals, of absorbing the stress from the people they consult, but it also could put quite a stress on them as well.
Yes, exactly. I talked to one mental health care provider who was in an area that wasn't a flooded region. It was a mental health care professional shortage area. And she talked to me a lot about kind of the ethical dilemma she faces, about a lot of times people come to her, there's no easy place for her to refer them to. She can refer them usually to a nearby city. The clinics in those nearby cities are often extremely booked as well, but also a lot of people don't have time to make that drive. They don't have resources to make that drive. If they're farmers, they might not have time to make that drive, or other professions too, but she mentioned farmers specifically. And yeah, she doesn't know what to do with that, because it's a decision that she said she has to make this decision often of, does she try to take on more clients or give the best care she can to the clients she already has? And she's just one person. How does she deal with an ethical dilemma like that?
This is an extensive project that encompassed reporting from all areas of the state. How has this experience helped you be better able to conduct future in-depth reporting projects? In other words, what did you learn from just the nuts and bolts of putting all of this together?
I mean, I learned a lot, and a lot of it was the nuts and bolts. It was being able to take writing that, I kind of honed my writing skills up to this point in an academic context, and a lot of it was figuring out how to kind of transfer that to journalism. But also, it just made me believe in myself. I see what I've done, and I'm proud of it, and I'm ready to be a journalist now. And I'm so grateful for this experience on so many levels.
What do you hope people who read the stories at iowawatch.org or hear the radio program, what do you want them to take away knowing or feeling about the topic?
I guess just the fact that there's people who are expressing concern, and readers can do with that whatever they want. I think that it's just important to know that this problem exists, and I tried my best to kind of tap into reasons that this problem exists, that people, especially in rural areas, have a lot of trouble accessing mental health care in Iowa. I really just want to make that problem visible, and the fact that there are reasons for that problem.
Iowa Watch reporter Kelly Page, thanks. You can read a series of related reports Kelly prepared on this topic on our website, iowawatch.org. When we come back, we'll talk with a farmer and therapist who can relate to this situation at a variety of levels. That's next, when the Iowa Watch Connection continues.
Winter is great for some things, like snow skiing or ice fishing, and bad for others, like driving or roofing your house. Did you know if you roof in the winter, it won't seal right? No matter what that so-called professional roofer says, never let him put a new roof on in the winter. Instead, call Hahn Roofing right now. They'll come check out your roof and put you on the top of their list for their first roofing project in the spring. Call Hahn Roofing at 712-262-8923. That's 712-262-8923. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
The Iowa Watch Connection radio program is part of a statewide audience engagement project organized by the Iowa Center for Public Affairs Journalism, an independent, nonprofit, nonpartisan news organization. The center is dedicated to producing high-quality investigative and community affairs journalism in Iowa, while also training journalism students to do this work at a high ethical level. The center is found online at iowawatch.org.
Welcome back to the Iowa Watch Connection. I'm Jeff Stein. Mike Rossman is a farmer, therapist, and something of a spokesperson for farmer behavioral health care in western Iowa. From Harlan, Iowa, he says that even without flood conditions, behavioral health care often is financially inaccessible for farmers who are tentative about their insurance fees being affected by a formal diagnosis of mental illness. He spoke with Iowa Watch reporter Kelly Page about the effects the 2019 floods have had on farmers.
Agriculture in Iowa and in most of the rest of our country is going through perhaps the greatest recession economically that we've had since the 1980s. We're in our fifth year of expenses exceeding profits overall. So it's not surprising that there are many concerned people who are involved in agriculture and in allied industries. Many of Iowa's communities depend heavily on agriculture for their economic well-being. The old saying is that a dollar that a farmer spends turns over at a minimum 3 to 6 times within the local community. And so, agriculture and ag-related industries like ethanol production comprise the greatest source of Iowa's income. It's fortunate that our state budget does also have other types of income that are taxed, such as manufacturing of equipment that is used like office furniture, and we have a large insurance industry and investment industry in our state. So there are facets of our economy that are doing well, but not ag overall. That doesn't mean we're collapsing entirely. It just means that, profits are scanty.
And why do you think that is?
We know that it is due to a number of factors. One is overproduction globally, and I say globally because that's an important factor in farm trade these days. We can ship food so much cheaper than we could in times past. So there is overproduction globally of many major commodities such as corn, dairy, wheat, and other things, even pork in some situations. Now, it can be argued that, almost a fifth of the world has insufficient food, so it's just a problem of distribution. Well, that is partly true. But the countries that need the food have inadequate transportation systems, storage facilities, or their form of government is restricting the distribution of food to those who need it most as a kind of a political action in some of these countries. So it's a complex issue. That is, overproduction is a complex issue. in the long run, Iowa should fare fairly well in the production of food efficiently. We have a very efficient agricultural production system in the United States, and especially in the upper Midwest, where Iowa is. We can probably stand the competition from other countries that don't have as good soil or who don't have the transportation facilities that we have, although some of those now are imperiled too. And that is a small factor. We can't ship grain down the Mississippi and Missouri River drainages currently because the water's too high and they can't get through locks. So there's all of these issues that contribute to the financial problem. And then I would have to say also, our government policy currently has been turned topsy-turvy. We're not getting the kind of support that is needed to recover from the floods. We are depending too much on the Trump supplemental payments for crops, and people have such mixed feelings about them, and they're not available to everyone, like organic farmers and to many small farmers. So the smaller operators are struggling in many ways, unless they are organic food producers. The markets for organic food are increasing, as you probably know.
I was wondering, too, just like more specifically about how the current flooding is affecting farmer mental health in the state.
We know that approximately 1 million acres along the Missouri River basin on both sides of the Missouri River, starting up in South Dakota, the southeast part of South Dakota, all the way down to where it joins in with the Mississippi River. So we have all of these persons who are looking for some way in which to survive. They may have crop insurance. Crop insurance doesn't cover everything.
Mike Rossman of Harlan, Iowa, a farmer and therapist, discussing the effects of the 2019 flooding on farmers with Iowa Watch reporter Kelly Page. And again, you can read the full series of reports Kelly has prepared on this subject on our website, iowawatch.org. And that brings us to the close of this week's program. We're back again next week at this same time. In the meantime, you can connect with us online, iowawatch.org. Click on the Iowa Watch Connection tab at the top of the page to listen to all or part of this program again, for a list of stations that carry the program and more. iowawatch.org. Follow us on Twitter at Iowa Watch, and be sure to use the hashtag IAWatchConnection when commenting about the program. We're on Facebook too, facebook.com/Iowa Watch. And you can let us know your thoughts about this program or suggest ideas for future programs by email. The address is radio@iowawatch.org. The program is produced in the studios of News Talk 1540 KXCL, Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids. I'm Jeff Stein. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll make the Iowa Watch Connection again next week.
The Iowa Watch Connection is a copyrighted presentation of the Iowa Center for Public Affairs Journalism, which is solely responsible for its content. For more information about the center, including how you can contribute so high-quality investigative and community affairs journalism and student training can continue, go online, iowawatch.org.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Had a question about 20 minutes ago. When is Beggar's Night? When is the Halloween night here in Fort Dodge when the kids will be out? That's October 31st, Thursday. That's the only night. Let me tell you again, Beggar's Night, the only night, is October 31st. That's Thursday night. I look forward to seeing the kids out there. I hope they come soon because I got a refrigerator full of chocolate. If they don't come, I'll eat it all. You know how that goes. Thank you for listening. 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's everything digital on the Kim Commando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Full speed ahead. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Democrats push forward with the next phase of the impeachment process. Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
The 8-page resolution lays out the next steps in the House Democrats' impeachment inquiry of President Trump, including open hearings in the House Intelligence Committee and final recommendations on impeachment in the Judiciary Committee. The resolution, expected to get a vote Thursday, would allow Republican leaders to request subpoenas, but would require the okay of the Democratic committee chair or a vote in the full committee. A White House statement says the resolution does nothing to provide due process rights to the administration and says rules remain undefined, unclear, and uncertain. Lisa.
Jared, the Kincaid fire that's burning in Northern California's wine country has increased in size, but fire crews have been able to keep up with the flames. It's now 118 square miles. Fire officials warning weather conditions could worsen overnight.
They're expecting wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour just before midnight, so that's the danger time. And their biggest concern on this already 75,000-acre fire is making sure it doesn't jump over the west side of Highway 101. It's an area that was evacuated. Then yesterday, the mandatory order was lifted. It's heavily populated and hasn't burned in several decades. The people who were allowed back home were basically told to be ready to leave tonight just in case.
Fox's Dan Springer in Healdsburg. California's largest utility says 1 million people are without power to try to prevent the spread of the fires. A new wrinkle for Brexit, with Britain set to hold an early election December 12th after a bill authorizing the vote was passed by the House of Commons. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he hopes the election will give his Conservative Party a majority so we can pass the divorce deal from the European Union. America's listening to Fox News.
How would you like to get paid for eating healthy? Or paid for your gym membership? Or paid for running? When you get life insurance through Health IQ, it's like getting paid for living a healthy lifestyle, because Health IQ is the only life insurance company that can save you up to 41% for the healthy activities you already do. That means you could get $1 million in coverage for as little as $36 a month. That's huge savings. Have a gym membership? You could qualify. Jog a few times a week. You could qualify. It really is that simple. Just go to healthiq.com/easy. Only Health IQ rewards your healthy lifestyle choices with special savings, up to 41%. It's why Health IQ was awarded the Better Business Bureau's highest rating. To shop the top 30 life insurance carriers, plus apply for Health IQ's exclusive healthy lifestyle savings, go to healthiq.com/easy. To get these amazing savings, go to healthiq.com/easy now. That's healthiq.com/EASY.
Officials.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Richard Higgins is a Fort Dodge resident who is in the Fort Dodge City Council race. He was a guest on Divine Intervention with Mike Divine on AM 1400 KVFD. When asked why he was running for city council, Higgins said he thinks it's time for a change in local government.
We need a change in our government. We need a change in our city council. Whether I win or lose, I enjoy running. I just feel I can do things for the people.
Higgins has ran several times in the past unsuccessfully, but he says no matter what, determination to do the right thing keeps him going.
And of course, I've been defeated 4 or 5 times, but that doesn't stop me. I still come back.
Higgins went on to say that if the city was doing something that he didn't feel was right, he would have no issue taking exception with it.
Feel something that I don't feel is right what the city's doing, I challenge them on it.
Higgins will face off with incumbent Councilman Dave Flattery for the 3rd Ward seat on the November 5th ballot. At last night's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, a group of citizens from the Woodlands neighborhood approached the council during the public comment section about building a park in the Woodlands neighborhood. The group of citizens from the Woodlands is made up of a group of young mothers with small children who say that the Woodlands area is made up of a large number of families who would benefit from a park being built. They say one of the major concerns about existing parks is not having bathrooms that are available for public usage. The group of citizens was represented at the meeting by Woodlands neighborhood residents Jenny Condon, Gina Carzoli, Nicole Ilchusky, and Carrie Jo Calasisi. Jenny Condon from the group says they are unsure how much funding they would need from the city, but that the group is willing to raise funds to help finance a portion of the project. After Condon and her associates presented the desire for the new park to the council, Councilman Jeffrey Halter expressed his concerns.
So, I mean, they're going to have the same kind of concerns. Are we going to have people that don't want to buy these lots because a park's right there? So trying to find the right place that matches both what your desires are as well as dealing with the developers.
Condon suggested the group put on a workshop presentation on the prospective park, and Mayor Matt Bemrick agreed.
I like your idea of coming back in a workshop type format.
After the meeting, Jenny Condon had this to say in response to the concerns expressed by Councilman Jeffrey Halter.
I thought he had valid points, but this is really just the beginning of what we're doing. And so we're just...
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Starting off this hour is going to be Tim in Florida. Hey, Tim, welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hello, Dave, and first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the ministry you provide all of us.
Well, thank you, sir. How can I help?
I am a retiree, and my wife is counting down the days, and she has an option. Take a monthly pension plan payout or a large lump sum payout. And this is something that's never been presented to us, and so we thought maybe some outside advice would help which way we should go.
Okay. It's a fairly easy calculation that leads you to a fairly easy conclusion. Okay. There's two parts to the calculation. The answer is I would roll it to an IRA in good mutual funds, a direct transfer rollover. There's no taxes on it that way. It'll continue to grow, and it can pay out off of that lump sum. Now, the pension calculations are all done at either 6.5% or 7%, and that's due to the regulations on a pension. They simply cannot do their calculations higher than that because the federal laws that are and regulations that are in place to keep them from becoming insolvent. Okay? And so the lump sum, were it to sit there until she started drawing on it and grow at 6% or 7%, would then at 6 or 7% provide the monthly income that it's talking about providing her. That's how the calculation works, okay? So thing one is if you invested in good mutual funds and you earn 10 to 12%, you're going to have more monthly income off the same amount of money because it's better invested. That's what it amounts to. So you'd have more while you're alive. The second part of the equation is when she dies, the money's gone if it's in a pension.
Correct.
And when she dies and it's in an IRA, it's now in your estate, in her estate, and it stays in your family or stays wherever she wants to leave it to, hypothetically to you and then on to your kids or whatever. So what is the lump sum?
$650,000.
Woo! That's a lot to lose.
And the pension payout would be $51,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what made us start thinking about there's no guarantee of life. We all have a 100% chance of not getting out of this alive. And
you did the same research I did.
And thinking about it, because I've already retired and I get a Social Security and a pension check, and she would be eligible for the same thing. And 4 government checks just makes me nervous.
Yeah. Well, the $650,000 at 10% would be $65,000. At 12% would be $80,000. Okay,
And
so
that's obviously much more than what she would get in the pension payout.
Yeah, and so
plus there
it's
would be a balance when
exactly
she
what I
passes
said it
away.
was. It's 51, and that's going to be about 7%. And so that's the payout. So you're going to make more alive, and you'll be $650,000 richer on death. So it's kind of a no-brainer to roll it.
Well, I heard you say several weeks ago that you would always vote for having the cash rather than the payments.
Yeah. Well, the cash rollover, in this case, the rollover, because you lose it all at death and because you can make more while you're alive, those two variables cause me almost every time. I mean, there's a few things where they've some kind of weird calculation or something they've done, and you actually end up getting more. But almost every time, it's what you described there, 51,000 on 650, which is a lousy rate of return. And so if you roll that to a good IRA and you have that option, ding, ding, man. And you can draw on it or not draw on it at that point. But if you want to draw on it, if you drew off all that it's earning, you would have